Today we are going to analyze the 2019 Malayalam film, Kumbalangi Nights, a movie that left a lasting impact on the industry. Its exceptional storytelling, strong performances, and technical brilliance make it a modern masterpiece. Directed by Mathushi Narayanan and written by Shyam Pushkaran, the film was jointly produced by Fahad Fasil and Nazriya Nazim under their banner Fahad Fasil and Friends, along with Dileesh Pothan and Shyam Pushkaran under Working Class Hero. Story. This film follows the lives of four brothers, Saji, Boni, Bobby, and Frankie, who live in the small village of Kumbalangi. The central conflict revolves around their constant fights over trivial matters, but by the end they find peace through unity. In the beginning, when there were no women in their home, it was filled with conflict and chaos. However, as female figures enter their lives, happiness slowly starts to return. The locals describe their surroundings as a place where even stray dogs and cats are unwanted, a metaphor that extends to the brothers themselves, who are treated as outcasts. There are visible shots of small dogs and cats roaming around the house and nearby places, reinforcing this idea. The film employs small yet powerful storytelling layers to deepen its impact. For example, in Frankie's first dream sequence, he calls out for his mother, crying for help, but she doesn't hear him. This moment subtly represents his deep emotional wounds and longing for maternal care. Another instance is when Frankie, abandoned by all his friends, returns home. Despite its flaws, it remains his last refuge. Despite their differences, the four brothers share undeniable similarities that connect them on a deeper level. This bond is subtly reinforced through dialogues and visual storytelling. A great example of this is the intercut sequence, where Saji confesses his struggles to the doctor, paralleled with scenes of Bobby and Baby. The intercuts are placed in such a way that when Saji is asked a question, the answers are matched with shots of Baby and Bobby. This editing choice cleverly highlights their internal connection more precisely, emphasizing how, despite their individual battles, these characters are inherently linked by shared experiences and emotions. Production design. One of the standout aspects of the film's art direction is the contrast between Saji's and Shami's houses. Shami's world is dominated by a loud red tone, reinforcing his aggressive and dominant nature. His bullet bike, the blade he uses, and the frequent use of mirrors highlight his self-obsession. In contrast, Saji's house has no doors, symbolizing openness and instability. The mosquito nets hint at their livelihood, while the greenish, earthy tones reflect their grounded, laid-back personalities. Just as Shami's bullet defines him, Bobby's speaker subtly shapes his character. Additionally, Boni's costume remains unchanged throughout the film, visually reinforcing his flat characterization. Cinematography. When discussing cinematography, we usually discuss camera movements and frame composition. Instead of relying on multiple quick cuts, Kumbalangi Nights maintains a visual grammar built on prolonged shots. Each shot and scene flows seamlessly, much like the movement of water. A great example of this is the visuals used during the Cherathakal song. Through these frames, Shaiju Khalid beautifully captures the essence of Kumbalangi and its surroundings. When it comes to Shami's character, close-up shots are predominantly used. This allows the audience to feel his self-admiration, reinforcing his narcissistic personality. Another fascinating example is the scene where Bobby throws the fishing net while Baby watches and smiles. On the surface, it seems like a simple moment where she smiles because of her crush. But on a deeper level, this shot symbolizes their love being confirmed. There is no need for explicit "I love you" dialogues. Instead, the passing of the net within the frame, accompanied by Baby's smile, makes the shot magical. Now consider the scene where Baby tells her sister about Bobby. She is framed on the left side of the shot, with a wall occupying the right one-third of the frame. In the next shot, Shami appears from the right third of the frame, subtly suggesting that even within the supposed safety of their home, someone is always watching. Another key moment is when Saji loses the only person who truly stood by him. His placement in the right half of the frame, with the left side remaining open, visually represents the emotional void in his life. This void starts to fade when he meets the Tamil man's wife, marking a closure for his character arc. One of the most striking frame compositions in the film is a frame within a frame shot. In a triangular composition, Frankie tells Bobby that the Tamil man's wife will be leaving the next day. Throughout the film, we also see effective use of superior and inferior angles. A great example is the final scene, where Shami is shot from a low angle to make him appear dominant, while Baby and her sister are framed from a high angle, emphasizing their vulnerability at that moment. Sound. A classic example of how music creates meaning in Kumbalangi nights is the song Kirathukul, which appears in two distinct versions. The first time we hear it, Frankie is lying on a swing, lost in thoughts about his mother, feeling disconnected from his home. The second time, the Tamil man's wife enters the house, almost like a mother figure, bringing a sense of warmth and belonging. These two extreme variations of the same track beautifully reflect the emotional shifts in the story, reinforcing the film's underlying themes. Instead of overwhelming the audience with constant background music, the film relies on the natural sounds of Kumbalangi to create an immersive atmosphere. Music is introduced only at crucial moments, enhancing the impact of key emotional and narrative beats. In certain scenes, sound design is used to build tension and unease. For instance, as Shami's unpredictability becomes more apparent and Bobby's fear intensifies, a creeping riser in the background score subtly amplifies the tension. Similarly, in a critical scene where Baby and her sister experience fear, the soundtrack incorporates a heartbeat effect, mirroring their anxiety. As the tension builds, the camera finally cuts to Shami, whose mere presence, amplified by the score, establishes his dominance. One of the film's most powerful uses of music occurs when Shami reaches the peak of his control over the house. In this moment, there are no dialogues or explicit statements to establish his authority. Instead, the music alone conveys his terrifying supremacy, working seamlessly with Fahad Fasil's performance and the shot's framing. This careful blending of sound, acting, and cinematography ensures that the audience feels Shami's power rather than being told about it, making the impact far more effective. Madhusi Narayanan's Kumbalangi Night stands as a benchmark in filmmaking. Its editing style, narrative treatment, and cinematic execution make it a reference point for future filmmakers, setting a high standard for storytelling in cinema.